Morning. Thanks. Thanks to everybody. I'm very happy to be here for several different reasons, but I have to be very quick because I have only 20 minutes, and I will try to tell a small, big story that could be a little bit complicated, but maybe is necessary. Here we are together to discuss about the possibility to collaborate in between the public services. That is clear, but not so much, but I think that other people will discuss it, and something that is called design. And in the last 2 or 3 decades, the meaning of the term design at the same time, so the term design at the same time boomed. So a lot of people is talking about design and design thinking and design attitude. And at the same time, as every word when it's stretched so much, it is so successful, often we have a lot of confusion what we are talking about. So I will be maybe hopefully not so boring, but a little bit boring maybe, to try to explain or to give a kind of map of what could be the different meaning of the term design and in which way we can try to use it. And of course, if we have to collaborate, what designers in general and the design school can bring in the collaboration. Because the first possibility to collaborate is to understand each other, what we have to offer. So this is the attempt. I don't know if I will succeed, but I will try. Obviously, in my view, today nothing can be said without keeping account some fundamental issue that we live in a transition, hopefully a transition towards sustainability, but in any case, a transition for a model to something else. And the problems and the new opportunity around the public services are one aspect of this transition. But I will say that also the hopefully not so complicated story about design is part of the transition. So in some way, when we say design for social innovation, it's not only that design is for social innovation, but what is happening in the same design is one aspect of the social innovation. So the big transformation that we have had in the way in which design is talked about and used in the last 2 decades is one of the aspects of how transition towards sustainability and in this case specifically to be in the network society are changing the way in which things happen. And if everything changes, also design change. So this is a very rough attempt to give a design map. So what we are talking about when we talk about design. So let me go back for the design. This is a very classical definition, and it's good because the definition I think everybody can easily understand. It's very near to what are the expectations. So Simon, nowadays 30, 40 years ago, said design is to do something. So art designers those that change the state of things. So they recognize that something do not work, they see some opportunity and they try to change it. So this definition is a definition that talks about how the actors and the competencies. But when we give this definition, there is something that immediately appears, in my view, that you don't need to be a particularly expert. So this kind of definition is a definition that could be related to a very large human capabilities. So the possibility to design is very similar to the possibility to be creative. In my work, design is the combination of the human capability to recognize some problems. Every human being is capable to recognize some problems, to recognize some opportunities, to have some creativity. Also creativity is a human capability, and to have a kind of a practicality that permits to decide what to do. That is a kind of everyday life strategic design attitude. So this definition is a definition that when it's successful, as is today, is a definition that can be applied to everybody, even when people do not define themselves designer, or even when they do not recognize that what they are doing is design. So we have this possibility, but at the same time, some people as me and half of this audience are also expert designers. So we have been trained to be designers. We have done special experiences to be designers. So we have a kind of first level of confusion, of possible misunderstanding when we use the term design, if we are talking about the design that everybody can do. And as you know, today with the network, with the possibility of the new media, the possibility for everybody to be part of larger designer activities, even if they are not designer. And at the same time, when things change very fast, also a city, a neighborhood, a society, an association, an NGOs, everybody has to redefine their own identity, so in some way they have to be designers. They have to design their own existence, their own identity. At the same time, we have the expert in design. So we can have a kind of polarization in between who is specifically an expert and who intend design as a very diffuse human capability. Of course, bracket, as every human capabilities, you can in some way cultivate this gift or not. So during the life, as we say for the kids, every kid is creative and afterward he can lose their creativity or not. Also the design capability can be cultivated or not. So in my view, a very simple definition of what the design expert. So if we talk about actor competencies, what we can say is that the expert designer has to help the other that are not expert in design, but they are obliged to design their own life, their own activity, to be better designers. So this could be a kind of interaction. Somebody has a special knowledge that can help the other one to do what they are not specific expert in which. But we can have the same definition as before, another point of view, the point of view of the motivation expectation. So you want to change the state of things, but why you want to do it? And the very normal reason, the first one that comes to mind, is that you want to change it because there is a problem. So you recognize the problem, and so you want to change it. And therefore, design is mainly problem solving. And this has been the way in which the last 10 years, especially in the design for social innovation, has been mainly considered. So design is the activity done by whoever or done by expert facing some problem to find a way to solve it. But it's not only that, because in the history of design, both design expert, but even the diffuse design is also something that has not so specific to do with the solution, the practical solution, but with the meaning, with the cultural dimension of the way in which things exist. And so again, we have a polarity because we can talk about design thinking mainly that we have to solve some problems, or thinking mainly that there is some new meaning that has to be generated, some narrative, as Joe would say. So, in my view, they both exist. It's not the one or the other one. They both exist. But the way in which you talk it, and also the place in which you talk it, and the arena in which you discuss it, sometimes has a focus on the sense-making, and sometimes has a focus on the problem-solving. And it's not that sense-making is not so important, because sense-making, at the end of the day, the value, the sense, is what really is the driver of change. For who is designer in between you? I don't know if you share my idea. My idea is that if we say the design that we know started at the beginning of the last century with the Bauhaus and the modern movement, the modern movement has not solved any problem. Everything was about meaning. But the meaning has been so powerful that they changed the history. Because they gave a certain vision to the industry, and they, for the good and for the bad, they generate dreams and driver that has been so powerful. So it's not that problem solving is the serious thing and the sense making is okay. If we have time, maybe we can also talk about that. No, they both are important. Clearly, if things do not work, nothing works. But if you don't give meaning, especially if you want to propose transitions and change, this is equally important. And for who in between us are designers, we are most related to the sense-making. Because the problem solving, there are different and multiplicity of actors that are very expert in problem solving. Where in the sense-making, they are not so many. So we have a special responsibility on the side of the sense-making. So we could have again a polarity, as I said, it's not a polarity only for the sake of the discussion. The reality are always intermixed. And as you can imagine, we can have a fantastic map. in which we can cross the two, and we have a different way of being designers and acting as designers. And I will say now the very traditional one, and afterwards try to see, with the time that I will have, the trends that are changing the tradition. So the most traditional one has been the design agency, very related to communication. So the very normal one that has been also in Italy, for instance, for sure, that a company arrives and creates a new strategy of the identity, new models, new projects with a certain quality, etc. Design and communication mainly. But there is also the design agency, especially the one that came up in the last period, that are more related to problem solving, to engineering. And it's another way to be design agency. At the same time, there are, in our panorama, a lot of groups that do not recognize themselves as designers, but that work on the cultural side, that create new cultural centers, that create new festivals, that create new initiatives, they kind of also of art that intervene into the reality. All those people is a kind of grassroots cultural operator that are very important, and if they were important even 30 years ago, with the new media, they become mass. So there are mass of people that participate in creating a kind of grassroots culture, a kind of a cultural activism, if you want. And after all, they are the most classical grassroots organization that try to solve problems. And there could be an organization to solve the problem of the kids in the neighborhoods, or a community garden, or whatever, this kind of initiative that they've seen until now. They mainly recognize themselves as a grassroots organization. Why are you a grassroots organization? Because there is a problem and we try to solve the problem. So, this is as all the scheme, the initial schematic. So, the reality is more complex. But I think that permit to say, when we today talk about co-design, who are co-designing? And it may permit to start to have a kind of rough language. The issue is that in the age of network sustainability, they all tend to go toward a kind of center. If there has been a period in which there was sufficiently clear who was doing what, now everything converges. And in my view, a certain degree of complexity in the discussion, if not confusion, is given by the fact that you don't know exactly who are the ones that are doing what. And of course, in this dynamic, we have some emerging trends. And in these emerging trends, we can see what the school can do. So this is the map, where it's how long I have?
About 7 minutes.
7 minutes. 5 tracks in 7 minutes. So, I have tried to see what happened, look into some trends that in my view are characterizing what we talk about when we talk about design in the different level in which you can have design and what the school can do. The first one is that we are in the transition. I think here they are not to be explained so much. We are somewhere in that kind of core. We know that for our life will take some decades of change, or a kind of oxymoron to say that the crisis is continuous, but on our life it will be like this. So if it will be a kind of normal condition of crisis for the next decades, we have to know that this is the way in which we will live. So it's a crisis that is not going to stop. And if this is true, we have, it will in the transition, it's obvious that we have to experiment. I know that there has been a discussion, oh wait, the social experiment is dangerous. It could be dangerous, but it's better to have some social experiment in which we try to give what we hope to be a good direction than to leave things to happen as it happened, given that in any case, nothing could remain the same. So the experiments are really the key point of what has to happen in the future. And what whoever is reasonable, in my view, should recognize that today and the future, the issue is how to organize the most that is possible experiment. So this place in which, as Adam was said, is possible also to fail. It's admittable to fail. You can start to search what happened and learn also from the mistake. If you call them experiment is simply a possibility to do something knowing that you can make mistake and creating conditions that permit to learn from the mistake. And so the design trend is that all the design is not an issue of special kind of design. All the design has to be designed for experimentation. And I write here in the social experiment because we are experimenting also on ourselves, and for social experimentation because we are trying to promote social experimentation. What the design schools can do, of course, they can promote and co-promote this kind of social experiment. And one point that I'm sure that will be also treated by Eduardo after me is the importance of having some spaces in which this experimentation can happen. As you will see, I use a lot of cases that comes from China or from other places just to show that what I'm talking now is really very general. It's not. So this is one example of one place that has been invented to create experiment in between universities, stakeholders, farmers in the island near Shanghai. So this was the first trend. We are in experimentation, and design is to promote different kinds of social experimentation. Second one, people. So in some way the design by definition is related to people, and this is not new. What is new is that people is a lot. And normally the people is considered the problem, but we know that the people could also consider the solutions. So we have to be involved in something that consider not only the problems that are generated by people, but also the solution that people can bring. And so if we are in a small planet, this is a larger resource that we have. So it's a dream, but the dream is to create some form of catalysis that permit to use at best the resources that people have. And it's happening already, because I think here we have to explain what is social innovation, but in the last 2 decades, there has been a boom of invention that has been done into the society. And all these inventions, by our point of view, are designed, even if they are not, rarely they are being designed by professional designers, but now more and more there are also professional designers involved. So when we talk about social innovation, we talk about a design-driven process. And so, if design-driven process is so important for social innovation, in some way we can say that the trend in design is that we have to design for social innovation or for social change in any case. I think that it's useful to have a name that is a design or an expression, design for social innovation, but I think that this term is so large that at a certain point probably we will keep it on the background, and afterward there will be several other ways to talk about what we do. A little bit the same that happened with sustainability. Now we are all for sustainability, so we can say it's design for sustainability. Who could be against? And design for social innovation tend to be similar to that. So except for a few designers that are also very politically working on some technology, etc., the majority of designers, by definition, they work for some kind of social change. So what the school can do, the school can work with communities and for communities. To work with the community would be to be part of the community, and there is, I will not now explain them, a lot of different things that can be done. And there has been a kind of mantra in the last period, we have to work with the community. So I give that this is, everybody agree, we should work with the community. But I think that we have also to work for the community, because there is something, another list of activity that can and must be done in some way in your office, in your school, in the place where you are. So it's important to recognize that we have the possibility when it's given to work with the people, but there is also something that if we, the expert designer, have something to do, we can do it also not independently, taking account the people, but not necessarily being embedded into the community. The design trend number 3, this is the most complicated. 2 minutes to say this very complicated. We live in a network society. What what does it mean? Now I will be a little bit extreme. If we are in a network, all of us interact. If all of us interact, also when we design, we interact with all the other nodes in the network. This means that every design action is co-design. Paradoxically, in the concept, before we said there is design and you have to do something to co-design. Now I think that if you are in a network and you don't want to co-design, you have to protect yourself. So the normal condition is to co-design. The very special one is to protect your group, not to have relationship with others. So design always happens in networks. And networks, once we had this very linear idea of what is design, afterward we say, yes, it's linear, but there could be feedback, blah, blah, blah. In my view, now we have to understand what does it mean not to be linear, but to be in a different point of this net. And my definition is that we have to divide what is the design action of the designer from the design process. And in the network, the design process is an open-ended activity. It never ends. It's always something that happens. And it happens at the different nodes. And the different nodes can also be independent. So they can interact, but they're pushing one against the other one. Or somebody, as we see as the last point, in coalitions. So I think that this is a very different idea of what does it mean to be designer, because the tradition has been, let's take the product design, you have to design this, you start your process, at a certain point you write to this. And so you could be a designer, you show your book, and you show how many products you have designed, and your productivity is measured on these products. In the networks, you can be in one of the nodes of this net, and to promote something that, I don't know if the term is good, a design initiative. That is a project, it's something that you have to do, but it's not the final product. It's what you do in that point. And to understand how to collaborate means to understand what are the meaningful design initiatives that the expert designer and the design schools can do. So to try to finish, this is a kind of working definition in my view. It's very important to understand the difference in between the process and the design initiative. Because the process never ends, the design initiative has to end. My colleague Anna is very, she will intervene, she always says, and I agree, we have to learn how, as the professional design, how to end what we are doing. Because otherwise it's never ended. So how you finish? In my view, to solve this contradiction is the process never finish. Our initiative end. And the design way of doing things is that we do things that are projects. But the project could be, as I will show you now, accelerate what the design school, of course, can promote this design initiative. But to be very simple, design initiative could be mapping the resources, mapping the state of the art, assessing some problem, developing ethnographic research, creating some festival, creating storytelling, creating scenarios, creating co-design tools as the one that will be used this afternoon. That is a typical design initiative, in my view. It has been designed by Adam and I don't know, somebody else, and it's something that the value, the productivity, will be in what will happen today. Prototype, system, and of course a designing platform, that now we have so many platforms. In my view, this is the crucial point. We have to be capable to show, we now the school, and also the design expert, what we are capable to do. And what we are capable to do has to be presented as a project. That has an idea, can be done, finished, is concluded, and entered in a certain kind of relationship. To conclude, the networks can be done by relatively independent, no, they are connected, but they not necessarily agree. They interact. Sometimes you can have that in between some nodes, you can create some special link. And the special link means that the interaction are specific, solid, because you create shared vision and shared ideas. And so you can create a coalition. So the coalition is a sub-part of the network in which some special connections are created and are created on the basis that people share vision and possibilities. And this is, of course, something that design can collaborate to do. Collaborate in generating in the network where everybody co-design some group of people that are coherent in trying to do the same thing, at least for a period. And this may call it the design coalition. And there are several projects that show it. And of course, even if I had time, I will not explain it, but just to give the idea that around in the world there are a lot of situations in which, in some way, even the School of Design has generated some coalition that permit to make something happen. And this is, in my view, what the next design could be, so what the school can do. And this is the synthesis. And the next time, if you give me the paper, we'll talk about the need of new design culture. But this is for the next seminar. Thank you.